Good day, students. Miss Thomas here again, coming to you with consumer affairs. Thrift. I remember hearing that word as a child. I always loved that word, thrift. Do you know what thrift means? Today we're going to be talking about thrift and thrifty behavior. Today we're going to speak about the ways Caribbean people practice thrift. Thrift is the wise and careful use of money and possessions in order to get the maximum benefits of them. So, thrifty behavior would include budgeting and, of course, shopping and spending wisely. First, we will talk about budgeting, which is the first thrifty behavior that we should all have and make a habit. Budgeting is the process of balancing income with expenditure. Income is the money that you make. Income is the money that you earn. There are different ways people generate income. From work and they get salary. Those who are self-employed, of course, whatever sales or service that they offer, people will pay for it. So that is a way to get income. Our older folks, they get pensions. Those are some legal ways that people can get income. People get income in all different kinds of ways. Those are just some of a few of them. Think of your own home and how people get income to survive and thrive. Now, also people get income from the government, like social welfare, different social benefits. So that income must be balanced with expenditure. And expenditure is the money that you spend. Whatever comes out of your hands is expenditure. So the money that comes in is income, and the money that comes out is expenditure. So budgeting is the process of balancing income with expenditure. Do you think you got it? Okay, so now let us do so a budget really, so what is a budget? A budget really is an outline of your sources of income and the amount that you get and how this income is going to be spent over a period of time. It is a very important practice to incorporate into your life. Soon you all will be in the world of work and you will be gaining an income. What do you do with that income? Do you just spend it on everything you see that you want? Or do you prioritize your needs and itemize what is most important and what could wait or what is not a priority? The choice will be yours. But some effective budgeting tips are to consider your income in relation to your needs. So, if you have an income coming in, you should be able to provide for your needs, not so much your wants. Now, there are certain things that you want. You may be able to get it immediately depending on your income, or you may have to wait a little longer, again, depending on if your income is not as, if your income can't accommodate it at the moment. So another tip you could use for effective budgeting is to examine the various expenses that you have and determine which is of greater priority. So, take for example, food would be of greater priority than a new pair of shoes. Or if you're actually going to a job interview, a new pair of shoes may be a priority. So you have to assess what your priorities are. If you know you're saving for a house, saving for that house, putting aside savings for that house would be more important than probably going to the movies. So you have to prioritize what is important to you when you're making your budget. Again, you must separate your needs from your wants. That's another tip. Many times we when we assess the things that we spend on, they mainly wants and not so much needs. So you have to do a hard analysis and decide, is this a want or is this a need? You must dedicate a portion of your income to saving, a great portion to saving. And in the next lesson, we will talk about the benefits of saving and why it is you need to save. Another tip for effective budgeting is to live within your income. Now, you might say, well, I have to live within my income because there's no other way. But remember, there are credit facilities that people utilize to live out. Sometimes they live out of their income using those credit facilities, like the credit card. Remember, I told you about the credit card. But use your use your budgeting skills wisely and live within your income. Don't rely too much on credit facilities. So if you know you could only spend $500 now, don't go and borrow money to buy something that is more than $500 just because you want it. You understand? It may be very tempting. I know it's very tempting, but believe me, you would reap the benefits if you delay your gratification, if you delay wanting something now. Another tip for effective budgeting is to record your revenues and expenses. So everything that you purchase, you should write it down in a little journal, a little ledger. All the money that comes in, you record that, so you have a visual look at what is coming in as opposed to what is going out. So those are some tips on effective budgeting. And budgeting, of course, is thrifty behavior. Thrifty behavior, again, the wise and careful use of money and possessions. So it's not just money. You could use thrift where your possessions are concerned. So some of the ways that we as consumers practice thrift in the Caribbean are shopping wisely for goods and services. How do we do that? How do you shop wisely? Many people tell you shop wisely. I'm telling you to shop wisely. But how do you go about doing that? These are just some. Of course, there are many, many, many. And these are just some that I will talk about. Distinguish between your needs and wants. We just spoke about that. So you may go into a store with the intention of buying a particular thing, and then you see something else and you say, oh my God, I must have it. No. Distinguish between your needs and your wants. Make a list to avoid impulse buying. That is a very helpful tip. That is the way a lot of consumers in Trinidad and throughout the Caribbean, they approach the grocery that way, the supermarket that way, or the hardware that way. Making a list so you can stick to that list, and you won't buy things on impulse just because you see it. Again, another tip for practicing thrift, of course, is making a budget. If you can buy in bulk, if that is possible, buy in bulk, because when you purchase things in bulk, you won't have to buy it every month, and of course, buying in bulk, your bottom line will be cheaper. It will end up being cheaper for you. Another way that we practice thrift in the Caribbean is to check carefully to ensure that you get what you paid for, especially when you go to the market and people using scales and stuff. Ensure that you get your proper weight for what you're about to pay for. Another way is that you could compare prices. You know you have an item that you want. Go and compare prices in different places and get the best deal possible for you. There are other ways that we practice thrift. We could conserve and recycle. Not everything should be thrown away. Like food, you could use food, there's sometimes leftovers. Don't throw those away. You could have that the next day or even the next day. but or even make another dish with leftovers, you know? So even your clothing, that's possessions. Don't ill-treat your clothing or appliances that you have bought. Make sure that you clean it the way it's supposed to be cleaned, at least the instructions given by the manufacturer. So your items and your clothing, all your possessions would last longer. And of course, if it lasts longer, there's no need to repurchase again, which would cost you to spend money. You don't want to do that. So make sure you make careful use care for your possessions. Don't use them in a haphazard kind of manner that will shorten the life of the thing. So we can conserve not just things like the things that you purchase, but the water and electricity. If you make sure you turn off lights everywhere you go in your home, you're leaving the room, turn off lights, unplug unplug power sources. If you know it's not in use, that will save on your electricity bill, and of course then save you money. So those are just some of the ways that you can practice thrift. Of course, recycling, driving within the speed limit, of course, uses less gas, So there are many ways that we practice thrift. It's not just limited to the stores. You can practice thrift in your home. So that will be it for today. We were talking about how we practice thrift in the Caribbean. So remember, thrift is the wise and careful use of money and possessions in order to get the maximum benefit from them. And some of the thrifty kinds of behavior is budgeting and, of course, shopping and using your goods wisely. So that will be it for today. And I'm thanking you. I'll see you in the next video.